go now to our first guest of the day, Edward Lazear. He's a former chairman of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. Professor Lazear, good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be with you, Tom, and good to see you instead of just hearing your voice from the stratosphere.
Yeah, I'm just saying, radio and TV, there's no difference. They tell me I'm wrong on that, but we're trying that. Good morning in Palo Alto. Is it good morning for America? Let's take it back to the Republican from California. There is this idea of decline. Is it good morning in America?
Well, I think it's certainly a better morning in America than it was a year or so ago. Things are better. Things have moved in the right direction. You mentioned earlier, just in your introduction, that you wanted to talk a little bit about the labor market. And of course, that's really where I think most of our concerns lie, because the labor market has been slow to recover. And that, unfortunately, I think is a pattern that we're seeing not just in this recession. We saw it in the prior recession and even starting to creep in the recession before that. So the situation is different now. The numbers that I like to look at, Tom, and I don't know whether you follow these that closely, but I like what's called the JOLTS data, the hiring data that come out from Bureau of Labor Statistics. And if you look at those data, what you see is that while hiring continues to persist even during economic recessions, it does decline. At the peak, we were at about 5.5 million hires per month. At the trough, we were down to just under 4 million. We went up again, and now we're back down to about 4 million, just a little bit over 4 million. Well, so until hiring picks up to 5.5 million, I think we're still going to see a very slow labor market.
Elian, try to work on a JOLTS chart there. There's a couple of the JOLTS survey. Folks, the JOLTS survey shows the flows of the labor market. Let's look at dreaded first chart here, the structural jobs challenge. And you can see here, Ed Lazear, 27 weeks or more. It's just turning around. When do you expect to see the structural challenge go away, where we're only worried about cyclical unemployment?
Well, I think that's going to be slow and happening. Again, I think much of this reflects the fact that we're in a different kind of economy. As we've moved consistently from manufacturing to services, we're seeing different trends. Some of that is good, and it's good in the sense that service workers tend to be more flexible, and they have more ability to go from one industry to another than do manufacturing workers. So that's helpful in the long run. Unfortunately, it also seems to mean that in the short run, we do without those service workers during recessions, and it takes a long time for that to kick back in. So I wouldn't expect to see us back to normal levels of unemployment, normal being something like 5% for at least a couple of years, and even possibly beyond that.
Yeah, I think Professor Lazear is hedging it there. I'm not hearing a couple of years from too many people. Ed Lazear, if we look at the real paycheck of America, it's a bit better, but it's better when you look at disinflation adjustment. Are Americans doing better now than they were 10 years ago?
Well, Americans, the individual American tends to do better over time, in large part because as you go through your work life, you get raises, you get better jobs over time. That's not quite the same as saying, is a worker who starts out today doing better than a worker who starts out 10 years ago? I think the answer to that is no. Part of that is a recessionary phenomenon, and I think as we get further into the recovery, if we look at the economy, say, 2 to 3 years out, I think we will see the starting worker doing better than the starting worker a decade ago. But it's going to take some time, and again, that's not a good thing, because that's really where the typical American feels his standard of living being affected. So we need to get jobs going again, and my view is that the only way you do that is by getting the economy growing again. I don't think any of these quick fixes do very much.
Is the only way that a commission works in Washington, like a budget commission, Ed Lazear, is the only way that it works is where it's a force to politicians, or can it work now where we're going to have a healthy debate?
Well, I think most of the time they don't work at all. I happen to have spent a year of my life on a commission trying to reform the tax code back in 2005 before I joined President Bush as his economic advisor. And while I thought we did great work and the report that we did was applauded by the academic community, it didn't go very far. And I fear that the current commission report will suffer the same fate, largely because while there are a number of good things in the report, and I think the commission has to be complimented for their courage on this, the problem is that there are basically conditions in that report that are ones that each member of Congress is going to say this is simply a no-go.
Edward Lazear of Stanford. Boy, what a great time to have Ed Lazear on to talk about this. I mean, you talk about creative destruction, Ed Lazear. This is like an ultimate story of Schumpeter, isn't it?
Well, it is, and obviously we're all encouraged and I think happy that GM is doing reasonably well, better I think than expected. I remember when the bailout was being discussed, and obviously that was not something that we wanted to do, but there were a couple of bad choices at the time, no good choices, and we took the one that we thought was the least bad. I do remember having been asked whether there was any chance that GM would actually survive. People were very skeptical. So it's nice to see that story has played out in a positive direction.
Let's pick up the Paul Krugman piece today, Rex, if we could. The hijacked commission, a process meant to deal with real problems, has been hijacked on behalf of an ideological agenda. Strong language there from the economist Krugman of Princeton. Would the economist of Stanford comment on this battle between two polarized groups? Can we find a middle ground?
Well, here's the problem. I think that the difficulty, and it's the one that you talked about just before the break, is that there are a number of non-starters, third rails, if you will, in the Deficit Reduction Commission's report, or the tentative report, at least as far as we know. And those non-starters are different for each member of Congress. So, the obvious ones are raising the age of Social Security. That's a problem for some people. Cutting defense spending is a problem for other people. And then for me, and I think a number of others, raising taxes on dividends and capital gains is a huge problem, because I think those are probably the things that we can do to most penalize investment in this economy. So, we're going to have disagreements, and unfortunately, I worry that each member may be willing to fall on his sword for a different issue.
Bring up chart 4, if you would, here, Rex. I want to look at this. This is government spending, and it balloons. Sure, part of it is the denominator is GDP, and it's a smaller GDP on a rate basis. But Ed Lazear, can we make the statement that government spending is out of control? Is that a fair statement?
I think it is a fair statement, and here's the way I would think about it. If you look at each of the past 2 decades, government spending as a proportion of GDP was below 20%. It's now at 25%. Now, as you point out, part of that is a result of the recession. We know that the denominator has fallen a bit, but that's not the main action. The main action is a significant increase in spending, that most of which I think is permanent, or at least projected to be permanent.
Stop. This is critical, Ed Lazear. You're saying that the move from 20 to 25% of GDP is not rationalized by 2 wars or by the recession. You're saying it's permanent spending.
That's the concern. Part of it, I think, is a result of some stimulus spending, but my interpretation is that most of the stimulus spending will become permanent because of the way that government budgets work. And President Obama's target is to get it back from 25% of GDP down to 23% of GDP. I hope he's successful in that, but I think we need to be even more draconian in terms of our cuts. There's no reason why we can't go back to a number below 20% like we were in 2007. So, 2008 was a year when we had the TARP, and even then we weren't much above that. So we can get back there. It's feasible to get back there, and I think we need to be concentrating on the spending side more than on the tax side.
Let's go after the corporations. They're making record profits, record cash. Here's the proper level of corporate tax. What is the proper level of corporate tax, Professor? We saw that balloon up, and then, of course, we've come down with a slower economy, and we'll come back. Is there an academically correct corporate tax level?
Well, there is certainly an academically correct way to think about the corporate tax structure. And I think most academics, most public finance academics, most people who are into studying tax codes worry about overtaxation of capital. Most believe that we should have dividends and capital gains taxes close to zero for purposes of efficiency in capital markets. The one thing I can tell you is that, as you know, the United States is a high-tax country for corporations. Now, it's a high-tax country in terms of the statutory rate. It's a little bit lower when you take into account the effective rate.
Right.
But it's still not competitive with other countries. And our G7 partners are actually moving in the opposite direction. So we're going to have to be looking at that in order to remain competitive in capital markets as we move into the future.
Yeah, too many things to talk about, Ed. I want to talk to you about windsurfing under the Golden Gate Bridge, but forget that. This morning, Nassim Taleb of NYU spoke with Eric Schatzker and Deirdre Bolton on the Federal Reserve. Here's what Nassim Taleb had to say about what the Fed should be doing.
The Fed's business should be price stability. Unfortunately, their business seems to be price instability. They're not fulfilling, what we want from a currency that replaced gold.
Nassim Taleb, you know him from the Black Swan and Fooled by Randomness. Ed Lazear, QE2, what an invention. Just in the minute that we've got left with you here, is Chairman Bernanke taking on too much?
Well, I think that obviously they've got a dual mandate, and so it's not just price stability. They do have to worry about employment. Unfortunately, the problem with QE2 is that monetary policy is inherently slow. We know that from historical data. It takes a year or two for monetary policy to play out, even under the best of circumstances, and we're not in the best of circumstances right now. We're using secondary approaches for monetary policy rather than primary approaches, so it's hardly clear that they're going to be effective. I think Chairman Bernanke is well aware of this. The Board of Governors is aware of it. That's why we heard the kinds of comments that we did coming out of the meeting. And the most important thing they did, I think, is they made this approach gradual so they can reevaluate at $75 billion a month. They can reevaluate if they think it's not going in the right direction.
Your colleague John Taylor has been scathing out on his blog Economics One about the stimulus and the lack of input into infrastructure, into bridges. Do you agree with Professor Taylor?
I certainly agree that most of the stimulus has not been effective, and certainly the view that I think Taylor and Kogan both take in terms of the amount of money that's gotten out is correct. This is not a new phenomenon. It's something that we talked about. I even talked about when I was still at the White House. We called it the Brewster's Millions problem, which is that it's just very difficult to get a lot of money into the economy, no matter what you do, whether you give it to the individuals, whether you try to run it through state governments. It's just very tough to get that money out there. And I think that's been a problem associated with most of the stimulus programs, that even if you believe that the multiplier, this thing that economists debate about, how effective is money in terms of generating additional growth in the economy, even if you believe the multiplier is high, the big problem is getting the initial impact into the economy by getting that money spent. And that's easier said than done.
Let's leave it there. Edward Lazear, thank you so much, of Stanford University,